Land of fun, sun and Sol Kerzner. But something was rotten in the state of Bophuthatswana. Bophuthatswana was the National Party's shining example to the world that Verwoerd's dream of separate development could work. Established in 1972, this patchwork of 7 bits of land was ruled for 18 years by Lucas Mangope. With the aid of South Africa's military establishment, the world's richest platinum mine and a set of casinos, he dictated the fortunes of over 2 million people. As the Truth Commission found out this week, it was not a happy homeland. Freda Mabalani was 15 years old when she was stabbed and burnt to death in 1985. Mabalani was a Standard 5 pupil in Vryburg and by all accounts a dedicated UDF and youth activist in Hudi, until she was named an impimpi, informer, and her comrades dealt with her. Freda's grandmother, mother, sister have only begun dealing with the pain of her brutal death.
At night they came to fetch her. They took her to next to the stores.
They have fought her with a paraffin or petrol gallon, and she was bent all over. And then I took her and asked for assistance from Mr. Janki. And Mr. Janki said, my car was not okay. We'll have to ask from Brother Neo so that he could help you. Neo took us to the police station. At the police station, they took us to the hospital. When we arrived at the hospital, they sent us to Kimberley. My daughter died in Kimberley.
Mrs. Mabalani, is there anything else you want to add, or can I go on to your daughter?
You may ask my daughter to testify. In your statement, you said, before they bent Freda, they first stabbed her with a knife. Yes, that's true. And you said the person who stabbed her is Zero Tebe. Is Zero Tebe still around? Yes, he's still around.
Zero Tebe was accused number 1 in the case around Freda's death by burning. It was dismissed for lack of evidence. Zero believes he was right to stab Freda. The township was tense, and any threat to the Hudi community had to be wiped out.
In the evening, we went to guard Mr. Hoffman Khaleng's house. It was already on Monday. Sylvester had already been killed by these people. On the following morning, when we were still sitting, Freda came along, and she wrote something where she was. I asked her to come to me. And she tried to run away, and I went to her and asked her to see what she had written, and she refused. And then I asked her again, and when she refused again, I took out a knife and I stabbed her, and she ran away. And I took what she had written on. I read it, and I gave the people what I read. It was our names on that list, and I said to those people, "Did you see how we get killed?"
In fact, by then the situation was very, very tense, so that I thought that to stab her was the only way to get what she got, like that, a list of our names. If I couldn't do that, maybe those people who was named could be also killed. So I was trying to save the community on what she was trying to do.
Thin lines between right and wrong. Zero Tebe named Freda an impimpi. He stabbed her. No one knows whether he took part in burning her. To this day, he cannot say whether he has any regrets.
Yes, I mean, I can't answer that. I mean, it's quite difficult. I don't know how to say really.
Many of the people testifying this week came from Hudi township in the small town of Vryburg. Here, vigilante groups worked with the police to maintain the authority of councillors who had lost the support of the local community. The present mayor of Vryburg, Hofman Galang, was chair of the UDF in the Northern Cape in 1986.
My house was under attack on a number of occasions, but the last time when it was burnt to ashes, it was on the 26th of November, but it went all through those attacks of petrol bombs with the different dates.
But it wasn't burnt on the 12th of July.
It was finally burnt to ashes on the 26th of November, 1985. In fact, all our efforts, even during those times, was to try and point out to these people that they are not, and they were not our targets. They were not our enemies. Most of them were families, we were one people. So despite of all those things, we managed every now and then going back to them. We pleaded with them. And towards the end of 80s, then they started to realize that really these people, they are not behind us. Because we pointed out to them that on a number of incidents, if they were our enemies, we could have long, if we wanted to attack them, we could have long attacked them. So we pointed out to them, we never gave up. So they ultimately acceded to our call. And even in the council, all of them, they resigned. We came together as one community and forgive and forget the past.
In Vryburg, we met with known vigilante members, but none of them was prepared to admit to being a vigilante. For them, the past is best forgotten.
And now we don't want to think even about what happened in 1984 and 1985. Because as the people of Hudi, we have buried our differences. And the people of Hudi were shocked. They didn't want to hear anything about the vigilantes. What they want to do is that we should remain as enemies. But because Mr. Khaleng is a Christian, he had lived by that. And he has told people that they must forget about their differences. We are now living in peace. Lydia and myself, we are heading the Civic Association.
But Vryburg hasn't forgotten the torture, nor a place called Die Langboom, a favored place of torture.
They tortured me to an extent that I couldn't scream. I decided to keep quiet because I realized that they were getting excited when I screamed. Later on, I asked them, or I told them that you are just wasting your time, you'd better kill me. And they promised me that you are going to die. And they took me again to the Khanyesa Road next to Lamboom when they handcuffed me. And they put electric shocks on my private parts and on my behind. And then they pressed their machine. And they said, if you are not telling the truth today, you are going to die.
This place where I'm standing is where all the tortures in 86 and the year before 86, 85, the comrades in the Hudi Civic Association, Hudi Youth Organization in particular, were actually tortured. We were actually leaning against this tree and we were handcuffed and we were actually tortured. I think the police were using it for bribes, having their bribes and whatever. Beside torture, or this was a place used for torture and bribes. Because even that in that particular day, they will actually start with their bribe before you are actually tortured.
In 1987, Samuel Twane joined Rocky Malebane Metsing's People's Progressive Party that opposed the government of Lucas Mangope in Bophuthatswana.
We had the support of the people.
We had the support of the people. In fact, the whole of Bophuthatswana supported us.
We had the support of the people.
We had the support of the people.
We were confident until after the elections.
After the results were made available, we found out that Mangope had the support from Phokeng. And he was afraid of some people from Phokeng. He was afraid of Mr. Malobane, and he was also afraid of Chief Lebone. Therefore, he allowed the region to win. And the other votes he took for himself, and he could win,
he
could beat us in the elections. We had to go back to the drawing room.
As a party. And we decided to do something.
And then someone came with the suggestion that we should stage a coup.
To forcefully remove him. If possible, destroy him. On the 9th of February, the executive gathered at the headquarters of the party called the Eagle's Nest, situated in the town of Mefiki. Then we said, today is the day, no mistake. We are going to explode. I went back to bed as if pretending, not telling my wife anything. Around about 5 o'clock on the 10th of February, I woke my wife, told her it's time to prepare to work, and I just lied there and I asked her to open the radio. She did exactly that. At 6 o'clock exactly, she called me and said, Sam. When I said yes, said there's a coup. Mangope's government has been toppled. And the announcement is, your party is going to be given the government. And I jumped up as if I was not aware that that was going to happen. I pretended to move around the village to see the reaction of the people. Everybody was happy. My wife was excited about the whole thing. Unaware, as I have said, that the thing had failed. The South African police, the South African soldiers had restored Mangope to power. The rejoice turned into a mourning. And trouble had started for all the members of the PPP.
Een van die redes waarom hierdie operasie maklik verloop het, is omdat daar geen populêre ondersteuning was vir die staatsgreep, hoegenaamd nie. So daar was geen inmenging of spontane reaksie van die bevolking nie, en ek vermoed dat alles is nou al klaar totaal meer rustig.
Twane was detained and questioned about his involvement in the coup.
I pretended, as I should be honest, not to know anything about what happened to why was there a coup. They said to me, you are going to tell us. You better strip young Yamudiotler track 80. That's not 80. I could smell blood before it started flowing. And my biggest worry was to sell out information which would result in many people suffering. I felt if somebody was to die, then I had to stand and wait for death as long as people would remain safe. And I said, I'm not going to give information. And the interrogation started. Kicking, clapping, everything, picking up chairs, hitting me with those chairs. I remember one chair broke. The way that man used his force. I was seated as I'm seated. I had to fall back. I fell back, seated on the chair. He picked me up. Went for the electric shock. Started their job. As usual on my private bus. In the evening I was driven back to Verwoerd. Then on that day I was put in isolation. Taken to a cell where I stayed alone for a period of almost 2 months whilst in detention. The warders in jail were telling us, all of us, not me alone, that you people are going to be hanged. You are facing a very serious crime of treason. That is why it came as a surprise when I was released.
No dictatorship ever lasts. The fall of Lucas Mangope and his Bantustan were inevitable. But it had an unexpected byproduct. The image of fierce Afrikaner warriors in khaki was shattered forever. In the first months of 1994, the spirit of freedom spread like wildfire throughout South Africa. The only real resistance came from the last remaining Bantustan, Bophuthatswana. The ANC was not allowed to operate freely. Lucas Mangope was still in charge. But by March, a few weeks before South Africa's first real elections, Bophuthatswana was also engulfed by popular resistance.
Today, brother, we want to celebrate our New South Africa, brother.
The crisis reached a critical point on March 10. Mangope asked the retired head of the Defence Force, General Constant Viljoen, to help, and hundreds of farmers and commando members rushed to Mabato. But in Ventersdorp, the leader of the Afrikaner Weerstandsbeweging, Eugene Ter Blanche, volunteered his services, and hundreds of khaki-clad AWB supporters drove into Bop. The armed forces of the homeland refused to accept the help of the AWB. Ter Blanche and his men were told by Mangope's government ministers and generals to leave the country, and Viljoen added his voice to theirs. The AWB started their retreat, but not before they created havoc.
There was a bridge there, and they stopped there, and one of them just come out of the car, climb on top of the car, and use a torch to light us. And in a few seconds, I saw one of them passing through the car lights, and after a few seconds they come out. They were all having guns for them, and they were shooting to us, and we were running away because of the gunshot, and I was one of them, and I fell a little bit down after my shot. I was not knowing that I was being shot. I was just running to save my life away, and after that they passed with their cars, still want to catch us where we are running to, and they were still shooting. The problem is that that bullet went through my body. It's still on my body, and then the nerves that control message from my brain to my whole body, the bullet is on there, and the message is still moving a little bit through my legs and through my body that I can move. And it's very difficult for me to walk again.
Before the AWB convoys could reach the border, Bop police and soldiers fired on them. Some did not make it back.
Photographers, we are not shooters. Huh? We are photographers, we are not shooters. Yeah, but we're not part of this. Come here. Who gave you orders to come? Who ordered you to come here? I was just following the convoy. Who gave you orders to come? You are a soldier, then just come. Can you just get us some help for him, please? He's just wounded.
Soldiers ordered journalists to leave, and the 2 wounded AWB members were shot in cold blood.
Just please go away. Go away. Thank you. You better do it fine.
Only one man pretended that this humiliation never happened.
Ek het die grootste agting en respek vir die lede van die AWB, die generaals en die offisiere, wat daarin geslaag het om die grens te bereik met 11 ongevalle, waarvan 3 dood was en die ander gewond. Aan die ander kant, so berig Bophuthatswana self, is daar 50 dood en 280 gewond. 'n Skitterende oorwinning vir die AWB.
But it was devastating to the AWB and changed right-wing politics very fundamentally.
It's easy to talk about war, and especially for people in the AWB at that time. Every second sentence they said had to do with war, and nobody had ever actually seen it. And when they saw that on television and they saw those people pleading for their lives, I think that had a most profound impact on their thoughts on war. That was perhaps the most important incident that led to the ensuing disarray in the right wing. Before that time, the Afrikaner Volksfront perhaps represented the most powerful right-wing grouping that we've seen for years in South Africa. And for the first time in the 2 years preceding that particular incident, you had quite a powerful grouping that were quite capable of waging war if it would ever come to that. I think Eugene Terreblans could count on the support of a hardcore of about 5,000 members and up to 20,000 sympathizers before that. Now, before that incident, he drew packed halls at the Pretoria City Hall, for instance, and it was quite significant, the first meeting that the AWB held in the Pretoria City Hall afterwards. I think only about 300 to 400 people attended, and one could see then that they were only the very hardcore, the very last remnants who actually still wanted to believe in him. The rest of his people were all gone.
Constant Viljoen left the alliance with the other right-wing parties and announced that his new party, the Freedom Front, would take part in the elections. Today, the Freedom Front is the main party representing conservative Afrikaners, but it has a radically new style of politics with a good working relationship with the ANC.
Ek sê die Westminster politiek, waar die ou Britse konfrontasiepolitiek is, waar jy kop teen kop stamp, is vir altyd verby. Hierdie is 'n politiek van respek vir mekaar, 'n soeke na konsensus. Die feit dat die Vryheidsfront homself aan Afrika gebind is, ek is van Afrika, daar's geen ander plek waar ek kan heen gaan nie, maak dat daar respek is albei kante, dat ons weet ons moet 'n oplossing kry wat vir elkeen ruimte maak en dat ek so eerlik moontlik my saak stel en dieselfde van die ander kant verwag.
But the events also meant the final humiliating end to the rule of one of apartheid's darlings, Lucas Mangope.
They didn't take over control, they looted control. There was a lot of criminal looting in Mabat, and the South African government looted political power.